Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the latest edition of the Jacob Elyachar Podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Elyachar, the chief content producer and writer of jakesick.com, a pop culture entertainment news website. If you're listening to this in our audio version, please give us a 5-star rating, and please subscribe and download this episode and many more episodes. If you're watching this on our YouTube channel, please give us a thumbs up, please subscribe, and please share this video. I'm thrilled today because my next guest started out his career holding the cue cards on the Saturday Night Live set. Now he is the owner of the South Side Studios based in Dallas, Texas, and several shows such as the CW's Chosen, Dallas, and USA Network's Queen of the South have filmed there. So please help me welcome Stephen Demmler to the podcast.
Well, that was a really great intro. I hear an applause in my head, and I appreciate it.
You're so welcome. Is that applause in your head bigger or the same size as the applause you heard at Studio 8H?
I'm sorry you were cutting out there. It's a bit frozen. I didn't follow that. Will you guys one more time?
I'm so sorry about that. Was the applause the same as the applause you heard at Studio 8H or different?
No, I was at Studio 8H. Is that what you're asking for during the show?
Oh no, the applause you heard in your head.
Oh yeah. No, that if it was there, it would have been, and I showed up, it would be crickets. But in my mind, maybe they loved me. I don't know. It's been a little bit since I've been there.
Absolutely. So let's get started with our conversation, shall we, Stephen? So when did you get interested in the entertainment industry, and how did desire evolved into the desire to pursue a career in our field?
Yeah, so I was raised into the entertainment industry. My mother was a Radio City Rockette. She's a dancer there, a Rockette for 26 years. And then my father, my grandfather was a stagehand at the Hippodrome back in Midtown Manhattan in like early 1900s, and all his kids got to be stagehands. My father among them, but all his brothers, were also stagehands. All my cousins are stagehands for the most part. So it's just kind of is what we did. So I got to start in it. I got to see kind of the magic of a TV show and be around the magic of theater also from a very young age, and started writing immediately. And eventually I wound up in business first, just a kind of a pure business background. Because the business is so volatile, right? Like very few people end up working on a show that lasts for 47 seasons like my dad did. Most of them are constantly, on a project that ends after 5 weeks, 8 weeks, 2 years, or, and it's volatile. It's tough to live, especially with the cost of living in the cities where all this stuff happens. So I was like, I love writing. I love entertainment. I also love food and shelter. So I'm going to go with business for a little bit, and did that. And then at some point, I've been writing the whole time. I was working just for me. But I want to win in a few screenwriting fellowships, one in London at Rain Dance Film Festival and a couple others. And then just decided it was time. I'm getting older, right? I'm not getting younger. I wanted to put everything, business and entertainment, together. So I founded Talon, and I figured I'd lean on my business background first. We started cash flowing incentives, doing film debt, it's called, right? Minimum guarantees, paying for these things. And then started doing film equity, and we invested in a lot of projects. Most recently it's called Bookworm, starring Elijah Wood. We shot in New Zealand in May. And I'll do Paul Schrader's next film, an EP on that coming up here soon. And in the course of film investing, the studio in Dallas fell into my lap. Somebody I know introduced me to the owner of it, who is a great person, but a property developer that had scooped it up when it was kind of in dire straits. And things shot there, right? But it's not his business, so it wasn't optimized and wasn't loved on the way it could be. So I went to him and said, let's do this together. You invest this property, I'll invest everything else to bring it from 1983 into 2023. I'll run it, I'll fill it, I'll do the rest, if you'd partner with me. And then he went for it. So we're off and running. For step one is rebuild.
And congratulations on the rebuilding process. And I also got to say, it must be very difficult because you have since you come from a show business family and you're like, how do you stand out? Because you have a long legacy.
Sure. I think starting in business is how it happened, right? And I'm circling back now to entertainment. So not many creatives, which I fancy myself as, right, spend the time, and I hear myself saying right a lot, spend the time to do business, right, and learn the mechanics of it and build credibility there, establish a track record there, so that when they have an entertainment based project, they can lean on that network and say, trust me, yes, it looks a little different than maybe, trading at a hedge fund does, but the nuts and bolts of the business side of it are the same, and I can control that, and I can understand that, and I can guide us through that, and efficiently. So it's a mix of that, and it's business people trust me because of the entertainment background, and the creative people trust me because I have a creative background also. Amidst all of this, I'm actually at NYU Tish's graduate dramatic writing program, doing the MFA right now. So I'm both things, or I aspire rather to be both things, and that helps win business.
Absolutely, absolutely. So early in your career, we began your career actually holding cue cards on SNL and Studio HH. So what were some of the lessons that you learned from your time there that helped you grow in your professional career?
Sure. There's two that stand out. The first is 30 seconds is a long time. So it's that thing where when I first started and Chris Kelly, who was the stage manager, would, scream that there were 30 seconds till back from commercial, I get really intense and jittery and anxious and worked up. And then over time, I kind of understood how much time that actually is. So it kind of gave me perspective on my anxieties, right? And understanding how there's time to achieve most things you want to, right? And then the other is I'm going to mess up the phrase, don't let great be the enemy of good enough. And that show is a great example because it starts at 11:30. The sketches aren't always done at 11:30. The jokes aren't perfect. Nothing's always perfectly refined like it might be on a film that was planned for 6 years, or 6 months. This was planned for 5 days. And it has to go, right? So there's a level of being comfortable with the reality of your situation and doing the best you can given the reality in front of you.
Absolutely. And I got to say, I am so envious because it sounds like Studio 8H is one of the best training grounds for any professional in the entertainment industry.
I think so. I mean, live TV is scary, and it's intense and it's fast, but that crew there is easily the best in the world, right? You go, and if you watch the show, if you're lucky enough to get a ticket in the outrageous lottery, it looks like insane people running around. Just like the anthill was knocked over and everybody's freaking out trying to get back underground before it rains, and then all of a sudden, 90 minutes appears on air, and it's usually pretty good. It's really, one, inspiring, two, educational to watch that crew work.
Absolutely. So you mentioned that you were part of you went into the business acumen, but also you came back. So what were been some of the challenges that you faced staying in the entertainment industry, and how did you overcome those obstacles?
Business challenges in entertainment.
Yeah.
The first thing is, if this is a phrase some producers might use, I wanted to start in film debt because there's security there. There's a minimum guarantee, there's a tax incentive, which means a local government or a state government is underwriting your investment, and that's a lot safer than just the film or some other business. Therefore, there's a lot more competition to cash flow that. So producers might say you can throw a rock and hit a debt lender. So the first challenge was convincing people to go with me, who, when I started, had no background in it, no track record in it. I had to make them want to work with me when there were plenty of other options, right? It's a lot harder to find investors in film equity who are just putting in cash saying, make the film. I hope it makes more money than we gave you. That's a lot harder to find, but the debt's not. So the challenge one was convincing people to pick me, right? Let me participate in their projects via debt. And then, oh yes, how I overcame it. I think that's the creative part, right? Too. So what I did was I gave them confidence that I understand the mechanics of it. I trimmed prices a little bit, so it saved them a little bit of money, and then let them know that they're not dealing with a faceless suit or just a bare Excel model. They're dealing with somebody who has a creative background and wants this project to succeed. And that even though I'm the debt lender, whatever I can do to help that project, turn out as good as it can, I'm here for. And it's a mix of, being credible with what I say and then transparent and earnest in intentions, I think started to win us business. And then that's how things go is once you get a little momentum, it's a bit easier to keep the momentum.
And speaking of momentum, I got to talk to you about the South, but we got to go back to the studios because the
Sure.
thing is, you have CBS, CW, The Chosen, you have Dallas, you have Networks, Queen of the South. They all filmed it at your studio. So, what did that mean to have those productions going on at your studio?
Yeah, those all, except for The Chosen, those all happened before I showed up. And to me, what it actually means is that there's a lot of demand being missed out on, a lot of opportunity being missed in Dallas. The studio, the bones are great. The property is great. It's in a perfect location. Um, but it wasn't built to be a professional grade soundstage or studio space, right? It was missing it's missing a lot as it currently stands. And yet, all those shows you just mentioned still shot there. And that's because there's such a need for content creation space and such a lack of it, right? The demand and supply is out of whack. That if we come in and build a proper institutional grade studio with 5 sound stages and post production facilities, a screening theater, and all this that we're going to do, we should be able to capture a lot more of the projects of that caliber and higher, right? That's going on.
And not to mention the fact that, so just to let you know, we still have, there's places like, how do you hope that Southside Studios will help Dallas bring more entertainment productions to that city over the Los Angeles, the Atlantas, the Vancouvers, the New Yorks, the Chicagos?
Yeah, the honest answer is it can't do it by itself. The Texas Film Commission improving the incentive from 20 million to 200 million is a big deal. It's 10x. However, the percentages of the rebates at each budget level did not change, and that's still so it's more competitive. It's much more competitive now with the 200 million, but it still lags very much behind Louisiana and Georgia, and some of the upstate New York has 35% top incentive, and ours is 20. That's you're talking about 15% of millions of dollars. It's really meaningful to not be there. So we're in a better position, right? So the best way to win is for studios like Southside and a couple in Austin, right, to ensure that we're top quality and then be really creative in how we pitch the studio to these projects, which is something I'm doing since we managed to do this whole studio deal with zero debt. We have no bills to pay. We have no lenders. We have no creditors. It's just our studio. So I can do whatever I want. And I'm going to bring in the projects in. One of those things we're going to do is offer reputable production companies the chance to shoot 3 films in the studio where they pay market rate for the first 2 and they pay nothing for the third one. That way it blends their cost. It reduces it by a third approximately, right, across all 3. Other studios that have creditors and mortgages and bills, and they can't do that, but we can, and hopefully cost savings like that will help offset the weakness of the relative weakness of the even improved Texas incentive.
And right now, as of this recording right now, we're in the middle of both the SAG-AFTRA strike and the WGA strike. So how is Southside Studios keeping an eye on the strike? And what are your hopes that once the strike is over, how are you guys going to market to them?
Sure. So first of all, I think this strike was needed, and I'm I stand with SAG and WGA. There's an imbalance, right? It doesn't need to be an extreme swing one way or the other, but something sustainable has to come out of it. And being at this program at Tisch that I'm at, it's my classmates and colleagues and all are all looking after this, worried. They just want to be able to do their thing and provide great writing for these big companies and studios to make great content on at a livable wage. For the studio, in truth, it doesn't affect us very much because we're doing a ground up renovation. So like I said, we're about to finalize design phase next week. And then the reality of construction is it's weeks and weeks and weeks of documentation, weeks and weeks of contractors bidding on the project, weeks and weeks and weeks of permitting, and then they actually build the thing for a couple months, and then we're open. So I I think this timing of the strike is probably great for the studio because we're kind of, you know, we're not completely shut down, but we're largely offline while this renovation happens.
So it's better than I agree with your stance on it. I think that it has definitely helped. It definitely helps you out. That this like having this one is because it's like basically you're rebuilding while this happens. And have you guys thought of the game plan once both strikes have been resolved?
Yeah. So Talon is it's a film fund in addition to the studio. So we're gonna do things from offer the cheapest possible debt to any project that shoots in our studio. So if project A goes out and gets some incentive and all the market for their debt is 15%, and they show me that, I'll do 13 without question. Uh, we're also on a project by project basis offer equity to projects. And then we're going out and because I have a track record of producing films with Firefly Films and Spectravision and I'm working with, like I said, Paul Schrader's company now. We're going to go out to these reputable but indie size studios and offer deals that make packages of films, two or three or four, more economical for them if they shoot it with us, and we'll remove as many burdens as we can to make it just to add on to the Texas state incentive and kind of make it desirable to come shoot for us. But that would be the goal for the studios. We have a few buildings with many sound stages. I want one of them to kind of be dedicated to one or two or three reputable production companies. And then the other building, we're making a really creative space for the community. So it'll have an LED volume soundstage. It's going to have a WeWork type office space where creatives can come in and have space, but also in virtue of their participation in that, have credits for the sound stages and the LED volume and the 30-person screening theater. And then also in addition to that, we'll be running a bunch of events. We hope to participate in the Dallas Film Festival, Oak Cliff Film Festival. I'm producing a podcast I can't say yet that will have a bunch of live events with some really exciting people, and we're going to have those live events at the studio as well. So we'll program it interestingly. We want this to be professional grade, but of the community, right? It's a Dallas studio, so we're doing the top level stuff, but the Dallas way. We're not bringing Hollywood to Texas. We're putting Texas in Hollywood.
Which is a great strategy because not a lot of people do that. I'm sorry, I think with the freelance, I've been in New York with the Freelancers Union with their original location when they opened up the hub. That was a spectacular place. So I gotta say, I use that as like a benchmark for all places. So I cannot wait to see. Hopefully, when I'm in Dallas and when Southside is done, I would love to see what it looks like.
Please, yeah, please come. We'll give you a tour. Absolutely.
Okay, third to last question. Social media has played it. Where do you see social media playing a role in attracting people to Southside?
Yeah, for the section of the studio kind of dedicated to local creatives, I think that'll be important. It'll help show what we can offer them and what is being made at the studio through the partnership with us. So for the local side, I think it's really important. On the professional side of the studio, like the larger production companies that we're trying to bring in, I don't know that social media will win any business from those companies. It's a economic model thing, right? I think that social media there will be great for them to show that they're participating in the growth of Dallas as a film hub and get the city excited about having them there. And it'll attract the best crew from around the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex to come and participate in their projects and crew their projects. Because as you know, if I do a deal with some company and they come and shoot 3 films, they're going to bring their keys, they'll bring their director and their DP, but the rest of the crew is Dallas guys and women, right? And Dallas Fort Worth men and women. So I think social media and getting out, putting out what we're actually working on will generate a lot of excitement.
Okay, second to last question. Why should filmmakers be ready to sign up for Southside Studio?
Sure. So Southside Studios is going to be the only state-of-the-art production facility inside of the Dallas border, right? There's some other opportunities and they're smaller, and for certain creators, they're actually really great. Some of the other smaller studio spaces around town. But what they get with us is the same quality and caliber that you would get in LA or New York City, and they'll get it at a reasonable rate. They're going to have access to, again, post-production facilities, a theater, 15,000 square feet of props, a mill, a warehouse, LED volumes, 5 sound stages, production offices, 6 cast and crew trailers, and the list goes on. And it'll all be kind of bundled in as part of their membership and participation. And, again, access to cheap debt for projects that require it, the possibility to pitch for equity as well. That'll be a project by project. And then also my hope is to stand up a couple programs where some smaller films from newer filmmakers, assuming the studio achieves a certain level that we're aiming at. And then something we want to introduce after that is to basically do a grant program where one film a year gets 2 or 3 weeks where they come in and can use all of our equipment for free to shoot their film, just to support emerging artists. Yeah, I think that's pretty competitive, right? And it's run. A lot of studios aren't run by a very well capitalized film fund, also. So we're playing both sides. You know what I mean? We're making the films, and therefore we get to dictate where some films get made. That's just how it is, right? And we can also support other filmmakers with other funding to come in and shooting economically at our studio.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. I hope that a lot of Dallas and Fort Worth filmmakers take you up on your offer, because I definitely think they're going to definitely have in a lot of capable hands. Alrighty, so final question. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Where can my listeners and my viewers check out the progress of Southside Studios? And if they're aspiring filmmakers or like want to be part of the community, how can they contact you to learn more about it?
Sure. The best way is our Instagram, which is at Talon, TALON Entertainment. That's the best way. We're super responsive, the team there. And they can, they'll connect to me, or we have a team. They can always connect you to the right person on the team managing the right thing. I also want to call out another great person if they are local and want to get involved in the Dallas-Fort Worth film community. The Dallas Film Commissioner, Tony Armour, is an invaluable resource, and much of the reason that I ever learned about Southside as an opportunity and got excited about it was due to him. So lean on the Dallas Film Commission as well as Talon and Southside.
Awesome. So, guys, have you missed an episode of the Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar podcast? Well, visit our channels on Apple Podcasts, Deezer, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Podcast Addict, Spotify, and Spreaker. Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar, JACOBELYACHAR. Now, are you on social media? Because I'm on social media too. Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Twitter, and YouTube. Jacob Elyachar, JACOBELYACHAR. And if you want to learn more about more of my interviews, find out what's going on with America's Got Talent and what's going on with Masked Singer, visit jakes-shake.com. Once again, jakes-shake.com. Steven, thank you so much for coming on to my podcast today. I'm so excited to learn about the studio, and I cannot wait to have you back to learn more about your studio and your progress. So thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to talk with me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. We look forward to doing it again sometime.
Thank you. And guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, goodbye, everybody.